Hello, my friends. Had been put in contact with an architect based in Morocco, as agreed, who offered to hire me as soon as I graduate as an architect, which was approaching. As I needed a vehicle, I ordered a red buggy, a very fashionable car from California. It was built on a Volkswagen Beetle base and ideal for a ride on the beach or in the desert. It wasn't going fast, but its stars were dazzling, which amused me a lot. I thought it was beautiful, with its wide wheels, with aluminum rims, bucket sails, small racing car steering wheel, and white stuffed top. Rue Grégoire de Tours. I had met Jesus, an Algerian who was very skilled at setting up a business with very little money. Presently, he had just taken over a store on the port of St Tropez to sell clothes and accessories. But he was missing 300,000 francs and asked me to give them to him by associating me with him for the 3 summer months. I tried to back his new adventure. I accepted and found myself staying in a farmhouse in Gassin, a few kilometers from the port, with his wife Martin and his children. I quickly understood that the association was cut short, Jesus having a curious conception of the world given when it comes to money. Never mind. I take 3 months of vacation. I passed them while circulating with my buggy from the cottage to the old port where I still come in the clothing and accessory store to make the pretty hat with the beautiful customers. I have to let go of the women's concretes very quickly. Beautiful ladies are either accompanied or in search of well-stocked wallets. My beautiful buggy doesn't weigh much compared to the yacht they are in their sight. In any case, this kind of people never attracted me, and I was lucky enough to meet only selfless women. The joys of the buggy. On the road to St. Martin, in the middle of the countryside, a flat tire. There is no spare tire on this vehicle. Had to jack the car up, which I still have, and then you have to roll the wheel, which is very heavy, for several kilometers to reach a garage. The overwhelmed mechanic entrusts me with the tools, but refuses to dismantle the aluminum alarm rim, which is fixed with a lot of nuts. I unscrew, unscrew, unscrew. He repairs the inner tube. I put the tire back on. I screw again, screw again, screw again. I pay, then roll, roll, roll to the buggy that is still there. You have to pay for all the originality. One day, in the store, I see Nicole coming in, whom I know from Paris. She's a friend, or rather serves as a lady companion to a very rich Japanese woman. Aki is married to a wealthy English banker who lets her live her life as she pleases. Nicole introduced me. She seems to like me. She's 15 years older than me. But like many Asians, she doesn't look like one. She invites me to visit her. At the end of the afternoon, I go to the park of St Tropez, a very close place reserved for the richest. I announce my visit to the station of guards who filter out the undesirable, and after a walk in the middle of very beautiful properties, I arrive at one of the most sumptuous by the sea. She offers me a succulent meal, well sprinkled with great wines. Then, after making me smoke things that should not be talked about, we start a crazy love game where the charms of Asia and especially Japan are fully expressed. Afterwards, full countdown, but with a confused mind, and in the dark, I take the road to Gassin in the middle of the night. The headlight provides poor lighting on the bumpy road. In the fog that fills my brain, I see the bands soaring themselves fiercely at me. I am happy to finally arrive at my destination. I thought I'd never get there. Aki left shortly afterwards for Venice, from where she called me at the store. She invites me to join her. Yippee! I left the next morning and crossed the entire Italian peninsula in my noisy machine. I get there safely at dusk. After leaving the buggy at the parking lot, I take the vaporator, which is a water bus which allows to move in the Grand Canal. Night has completely fallen, and the buildings are illuminated by a resplendent full moon. It's magical. I feel I'm going back in time. We're coming to St. Mark's Square. It's extraordinary. Words are very small and very insufficient to describe the emotion caused by this city and its architecture that I already knew through my studies. I walked to the hotel where she stayed. Surprise! She chose a palace, maybe the palace. The Danieli is of an incredible richness. In addition, she booked la suite. Aki welcomes me in the huge reception room with very high ceiling moldings all around. Large Venetian mirrors fill the walls between huge windows opening into the lagoon of the Grand Canal. At each end there is a room. Her room richly decorated with a four-poster bed for love and mine much more sober for sleep. We are going to spend 3 wonderful days. Walks in the small streets, visit to churches, distributing grains of wheat to pigeons in St. Mark's Square with one of two perched on my head or shoulders. Big party with a parade of richly decorated gondolas on the Grand Canal. We attend the front row seats in a gondola which she rented. Visit of the Murano Glass Works. A fairy tale. But I am Cinderella. Back in Paris, I hope to see her again. But for her, I have only been a summer pastime. She wasn't going to commit herself with a youngster, a gigolo. Her deeply selfish and self-centered side began to get me on my nerves, and I didn't regret her too much. Back to St Tropez. Jesus introduced me to Vangelis, who is staying there. It is the very famous Greek musician who had been known with the Aphrodite Child in 1968 for the song Rain and Tears interpreted by Demis Roussos. He wants to go to Greece, and as he is afraid to fly, he looks for a vehicle to transport him. Jesus told him about my buggy, and we are studying the possibility. I'm still doubtful. Vangelis is a tall, dark-haired guy, hairy and bearded, rather corpulent. Sitting in the bucket seat, he is completely stuck and cannot make a movement. At the back, there is simply a bench seat that is not very comfortable. Not only should I put his girlfriend, who is also of a good size and should fall in fall, but also his big dog and his luggage. And Grace is far away. In spite of everything, he persists in his idea. He will pay all the expenses, and I will be paid. Fortunately, after a few hours, his girlfriend managed to reason with him and make him overcome his phobia. Finally, he takes the plane. I would see him a few times in Paris in his large apartment in the 16th arrondissement. He received me there warmly, shared the feta, and made me know Demis Roussos. Afterwards, he moved to London. About 15 years later, Iris Clare, knowing him, spoke to him about my animated painting and music. Taking advantage of one of his spaces in Paris, she managed to get him to come to my house. Vangelis was surprised to see me again and to learn that I was the creator. He seemed very interested in the demonstrations, but I was disappointed by his insidious questioning. His questions were not the ones you ask when you want to acquire work or when you are considering a collaboration. Rather, it was the search for information to take my ideas. I was convinced of this when I learned that he himself was a painter, rather mediocre according to Iris, and wanted to animate it with music. There was no follow-up. I never saw him again. Disappointment. In Gaza, the door was badly closed, and the phoenix set off on an adventure in the surrounding nature. It had already happened a few times with Chabi, and this time again we find him 3 days later, shortly before I go back to Paris. Tara, the little female I had bought to keep him company, on the other hand, had to give him into the mirage of St Tropez, and like many young women who come there, I will never see her again. Last weekend, lying on the beach of Pamplona, I finally make a meeting after 3 months. Martin gets her breasts down in the air. They're very beautiful. She's smiling and warm, pretty, friendly. Everything is fine. But she leaves the same evening home. Never mind. I'll meet her where she lives. It's on the way back to the capital. Well, it's in La Ciotat, but it's at the other end in an area of beautiful villas where she lives with her parents. Michelle, she lived in a working-class neighborhood near the center. I rent a room in a nearby hotel, and Martin comes to join me there for crazy evenings. Our paths will separate afterwards.